Hi guys.
My name is Nino.
My name is Lulu.
And this is Thriving at Love
and Relationships.
Welcome to Thriving at Love and
Relationships.
Welcome.
Welcome guys.
Welcome to another episode. So you're seeing some different things. We're just trying to keep you.
When you think you've gotten, when you think you've figured us out, comes something new.
Exactly. Don't let the haters know what our next move is.
Exactly.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about what are we talking about?
Sweet gist.
Yes, we're going to be giving sweet gist. Our journey
to being married.
Most people know about. I mean, we're giving them some gist, but most people don't know how.
What we went through.
Yeah, we actually almost didn't get married. Though.
He actually almost didn't marry me. Put it that way.
We almost cancelled the wedding.
No. There's not a we. Can you personalize this?
I almost cancelled the wedding.
Exactly.
Just like this. It was this close. Because there were a lot of things that happened behind the scenes that led up until the final day of the wedding that almost scattered everything.
Yeah.
But we're just going to share our story, and we're sure some of you can relate.
Yes.
Because a lot of things had to do with, religion, family, tribe.
Yeah.
As you guys know, from the West. I'm Yoruba and she's...
And I'm Yoruba from the West.
No, you're not.
I'm from Kwara State.
And she's Igbo. And Yoruba and Igbo coming to get married in this generation. We all know how it was in our father's generation, but we'll not give you all the gist. So...
Yeah, and the reason why we are even sharing our stories because we've seen a lot of people who are trying to get married and they've gone through and they are going through some of the things we went through, and we just felt like, you know what, this story will be a blessing to some people. The things that we did that we could have done differently, the things that we did that you could also do to help you.
What we learned.
Yeah, in retrospect. Yes. So, to get into the gist, this is long, Sha. So let's start from the beginning parts when we started dating. Yeah. So we started dating
in 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was like how many months before we got married?
Like a year plus. We got married in 2021 November. It's strange. I'm the one that knows the details on it.
No, like before you proposed.
I proposed in May, so it was like about a year. We started dating in July and I proposed in May, so like 11 months. 10 months.
Okay. So, before we started dating, right? I mean, my mom had already known my darling husband then, that we were friends. I mean, everybody knew we were friends.
Yeah.
But somehow they didn't think we were just friends, even though we were just friends, to be very honest, right? And I remember talking to my mom when we started dating, and I was like, oh, I'm dating Osan now, and she didn't make any comment about it, to be very honest. And then it was like maybe when we had gotten married, or rather before we got married, she was saying how she didn't take me seriously because she didn't think that was actually the person I was going to get married to, because why? He was Yoruba. Now, even from when I was young, my dad had always told us that no intertribal marriage, marry Igbo, and his reasons were very valid because when he migrated to Lagos, Yoruba people showed him shege. Yeah. That's the truth. And so he built his mindset or his perspective about Yoruba people from his experiences, right? And he didn't want that to happen to his children. So he just felt, you know what, just marry the one that you know. Devil that you know is better than the angel you do not know. Yeah. So that was it. And I had already...
The angel being me.
And I had already always known that I was never going to marry an Igbo guy for personal reasons that I wouldn't like to share. So that was it. And when we became serious and my parents knew about it, it was like all hell broke loose. Yep. It was not a good period then, because it was, no, you can't marry this person, he's Yoruba, he's far away. I remember some of my...
Just that, first of all, Yoruba, then you grew up Catholic.
Well, that wasn't really a problem, to be honest, our religion or my religion. Because remember then I started going to a Pentecostal church.
But they wanted us to do a Catholic thing. Are you sure?
No.
And there was one time that No wanted us to do something at the Catholic Church.
No.
Okay.
At all.
All right, no problem.
Well, I don't remember that happening.
Okay.
Religion was never a problem because my mom had always told me that the church I end up at is my husband's church.
Okay.
So when I was always talking about I'm going to a different church aside the Catholic church, she would always say, what if you marry someone who is Catholic, you're going to come back to a Catholic church. So whatever church your husband goes to is where you're going to go to. And coincidentally, my husband started going to the church that I introduced him to. So both of us were going to the same church.
Yeah.
But anyway, we went through all of that, and it wasn't a really good experience. I can't talk about it from my own experience, but for you, when you heard everything that was going on,
yeah, I mean,
how do you make you feel?
For me, because from my own family, they had already known you.
Yeah.
Remember the book launch, you were already around. So
but they didn't really know me then.
They had known of you.
Yeah.
You get. And the moment I told them, my sisters had already known that this guy that is always coming to the house. When
you were not feeling well, I came with one big watermelon.
Exactly. And so they already knew that there was some. So the moment I told I think I told my sisters, my sibling, my mom about
your
it.
Mom.
Told my mom, and she just asked a few questions.
Where's she from? Give me her name.
Where's she from? Give me her name. And she went to do her FBI, whatever, and she was good.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really any tribal sentiment because they already knew that Nosa was not going to marry. If I never dated a Yoruba girl, Nosa was not going to marry a. Yeah, I never dated a Yoruba girl.
That's true.
Yes. In fact, most of the girls I've dated were from outside the West.
Yeah.
So they already knew that Nosa was going to. So when they saw it, they're like, this Nosa Speko is most likely going to, marry. And my dad, though he might have had his own tribal sentiment in the past about
Igbo people.
Like he would just drop here and there.
There was one girl that Nosa's dad was arranging for him.
Yes, there was a time that my dad was arranging one Yoruba babe for me. And I said, I don't want. I said, she's not. I can't remember what I said. I think because my spec was okay. I like a yellow babe.
I think when you told him that she's not fair, he said she can be fair.
He said she can be fair. When you marry her, I said, your mother was not fair when I married her. Look at her now, she's fair now. He said, oh, that one does not matter. I said, what? I said, she's boring. He said, you will teach her how to talk. I said, Daddy, I don't want. He said, all you boys of this generation, So, I mean, that was his own, but he was not a strong, you can't marry from this tribe.
I think your dad was just happy that
because he wanted me to get married.
Yes.
And I was like, I'm not ready. And he was like, what will it take to get you married? So it's like, when I finally said I was getting married, I said, let me just carry this one. Let me just, before he changes his mind. So my family already accepted you. And, I'd heard about people being rejected by families and everything, but I never thought it would happen to me. So when I think after I proposed and everything, and I just felt like as if nothing was happening. There was just like a stone wall. And I was asking, I said, what's the problem? Is it that I'm not good enough? Is it that...
I remember you asking.
Yeah, is it that I'm not good enough? Or is there a standard that you guys have?
I remember you saying, am I defined by my tribe?
Am I defined by my tribe? I said, it's not my fault that I came from this tribe. Now, I didn't tell God, give me the Yorubas when I was coming down. And I just felt like as if there was just this... And what is it that my tribe did or Oduduwa people did that is now affecting me in this... And I couldn't understand it because I didn't grow up in that type of sentiment.
True. That's another thing. Your family is a very modern family.
My family were like whites.
Yes.
We were very modern. I mean, not like the Modern Family series that people are seeing, not that kind of modern.
Nobody thought about that.
Some people might think that. Sorry. But when I mean modern, we're very...
you're not tribalistic, you are not religious, you're not like
come as you. Even
you have never been to your village before.
I have been to my village, so it's like
exactly.
I don't even know if people say you have not been to your village. I'm like, what? So if when I die, would they say I died and he went? What does the village add to me? So we don't. All those cultural nuances have never really. I mean, we have a culture in the family, we are Yorubas and everything, but we have never been discriminatory of any particular thing. So, like my dad is, we hug and say, good morning, Dad. We hug.
No dobale
or anything. I mean, we are respectful. We know of it, but we are very, very, so.
And that was why it was somewhat a shock for you when you heard.
Yeah, because I grew up in that kind of. So, and I felt really bad. I felt like, Mama, I was like, what is it? Do I have to do something to fit in or to... It's just your daughter I want to. I'm not asking for too much, So yeah, it was... I battled with a lot of emotions at the time. And it was quite difficult for me that I thought I was like, is it worth it? Because I heard of many families that they want to marry into a family and they were faced with so much resistance, and some people are like, well, it's not worth it. So that's actually how I felt all through the process. All through we finally said I do.
And it's quite interesting because I'd always known that battle was going to happen.
Oh, so you had known?
Yes, because like I said, my dad had always told us no intertribal marriage. So I was already anticipating it, but I did not anticipate like the level of how intense it was going to be.
Because you guys had a lot of meetings.
Oh my God, my family people. Any small thing, we are doing meetings for it, just so that everybody meets and we discuss and we just make a resolution or what's going on. So we had like various meetings back to back, and sometimes the meetings will not yield any results. To just be, we're still praying, we're still praying.
I think that also was something for me, because it was like when you had said, this is the person I want to marry. As far as they're concerned, like, what is she talking about?
Yes. So that's another thing too. I mean, there are so many parts of this story. The fact that I was very young. Well, I can't say I was very young, because young. I was 24 when I was going to get married, right? And they felt, and then again, I'm the last born. So it's like, you want to get married. How? What do you know? What do you know marriage is? You're very young. What do you think you are doing, you know? And I already had a track record of, once God tells me something, nobody else, I'm not listening to what you're saying. And God had already, funny enough, given us a date. Both of us had gone to prayer, and we got the exact same dates, November 20th, November 20th, and November 13th for our trad. And we knew that this was going to happen. So at the time, we were telling my parents.
I proposed in May.
Yeah, I proposed in May. And from May up until, I think, October or September,
it was still prayers.
It was still no, we've not agreed yet. And funny thing is that we were still going on ahead with marriage preparations, even though my parents had not agreed. But for me, it was, if my parents do not agree, we're not getting married. And that was a problem for him, because you felt like I was choosing my parents over you, especially when I knew how much all of that was causing a strain on our relationship.
Because I had felt like, Shibi, you said that you've prayed and God said this and that. That's because me, if my parents were like, they are not agreeing, I'm like, I tell me, I'm just informing you. I didn't come to ask for permission.
And that's why it's different for a guy and a girl. Personally, I think so. A guy can rebel and get away with it. A girl I think is quite different.
At the time, I didn't understand that, or I was not even thinking that way. I was just thinking like, both of us are coming to become one unit. Like, anybody that doesn't want to get on board can get on board later on, because we are following what God is saying. God is saying, let's move towards November 21 and all that, and nobody wants to. Because I remember at the time, around that September, October, my mom had asked, son, are you sure you don't want to just move this thing to the next? And that one actually broke my heart, because I know she was on board with it, but
she was very supportive.
She was very supportive, but when she would ask her, like, have they done their meeting? I'm like, mommy, another week to come on. So I was emotionally, I was tired. Like, after you say that you guys have done a meeting, and the meeting was going to decide, because I think your mom had to speak to different.
Oh yes. So my parents are very. In retrospect, now I understand many of the things they did and why they did it, right? My mom in particular has always been particular about the fact that she never wants any of her children to marry the wrong person. So she solicited spiritual advisors in the matter. And I think there were like maybe 5 prophets or so that she spoke to about it. There was one that said
my faith was being decided.
It was not your faith, it was our faith.
Well, if it was not me, it would have been somebody else now.
There was one prophet that said no, she cannot marry him, that this guy is going to get married, this guy is going to marry another wife. Another one came and said, no, that is not the husband for Oluchi, because I saw Oluchi marrying a white man in the abroad, that this is not the guy. Then another one, the one that now broke the jinx, he now came and said, if you don't allow these 2 people to marry, there's going to be a problem. So you better allow them to marry, because God has said it. And from then up, I think after him, other people that my mom had consulted kind of just aligned and said, yes, that we don't see anything wrong with this marriage. We think that you guys should allow them get married. No. And even after that had happened, because that was really the fundamental thing for my parents, that let us even hear what God is saying regarding this thing. Right. And even when God has spoken, it was not another matter of kind of renewing their mindset towards an intertribal marriage. So all the concerns of but he's Yoruba, would they take care of you? Will his parents love you? Will they accept you? This, that. They were just coming from a place of fear and a place of love. And I remember always fighting them, always shouting after every meeting. It always ended with me shouting and fighting and just causing chaos. So I'm like, people cannot tell me what to do.
When you now pass the information to me,
I'll not mellow it down.
I know she didn't give me all the gist that happened at those meetings, but even with the one that you gave me, I was like, I think there was one time I was like, I looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, but guy, you be speckle, like you be correct, guy. That is one way that they talk like this, like So I started getting angry. There was a time where I actually now.
Yes, we started fighting.
We're fighting.
God,
we're fighting.
Like if I sneeze, my husband get angry. If I breathe, he's upset.
because the fact that growing up, I'd always tried to build that image of myself, that self-confidence. And I always felt like wherever I enter, wherever I enter, if it's a room, the people will be blessed, that they should be like, will I say I am the prize? Not necessarily I'm the prize, but I am.
I mean, that's what you're thinking, babe.
Yeah, that's how I always used to be. So I never could think about it like
being rejected.
I always think about it like, you should be happy to have me as an in-law. Do you understand? Like, that's what I always thought. I'm like, and if you can't see that, then I cannot fight because I always hated fighting for anybody's approval, because I knew who I was or what I carried. So at the point I was like, wait, come. You are doing 3 months. It's like you're doing interview for university just to marry. I said, like. And I had already made up my mind that I think there was a particular weekend that they were meant to agree. I think I made up my mind that if they don't agree about this time, I'm just going to call you and be like, you know what?
I'm not doing it again.
It's not worth it. I love you, but I believe more. I believe I don't have to go through this. And I remember speaking to our campus pastor at the time, and I was just like, you know what? You should not worry that this kind of thing also happened, for him, and he also knows some friends that it happened like this, that we should just pray about it and everything. And then I spoke to also one of our mentors at the time. It was, if I did not speak to them at that time.
But I do remember a meeting that you had asked me, so what's the verdict? And I was like, that they've still not agreed. And you said to me that, how long? And you said, so what if you don't argue? What's going to happen? And I said, don't worry, they will agree because God has said so.
When you said that, I was like, this is my wife. Sometimes she can be very spiritual. And me, one thing I have is that I'm very, will I say realistic?
Logically spiritual.
I'm logical, but I'm realistic. Do you get? Which is like, I know that we are praying. However, let's face what is on ground like this. Like, what are we seeing?
Yeah.
I know faith is, yes, we are calling those things that are not as though they were. And I was asking, I said, okay, yes, God has said. Because my own faith was not, I did not believe to be using faith for marriage. Let me just tell you honestly. I believe in using faith for money and for things that will achieve. You understand? But I like using faith to marry. Like, what's that one? So my wife was, God has said, don't worry. So before
God
then,
it's going to happen.
And I was like, this is September. You're talking God has said it, and we're marrying in 2 months. People need to book tickets and come. You're talking God has said it. So I was so angry, and I remember asking her a question. I said, so if your father says no, are you still okay with us going ahead with a court wedding or whatever? And she was like, my father says no, you can't go ahead. Huh? I could not explain how I was feeling at that time. So I was like, wow. So us getting married is not really a matter of God said. It's actually in your parents' hands. That's how I thought about it. That you're saying that it's God said, but it's actually in your parents' hands. And I remember, because I don't like feeling like helpless, like my life or my decisions. Like, that's one thing. If you want to get me upset, is try and take away my options, or take away my ability to choose or whatever. And I felt bad. So, and for me, it was like, because one thing I hate is that if you try and control me or take away my ability to be in control, because I like to be in charge and be in control.
You don't say so.
Yeah. So, and it was just difficult for me seeing that it looked like as if I didn't have a say in who I was getting married to or when I was getting married, like as if there was all these other factors. I'm like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a lot for me, and I just knew that something had to change, if not this process, because my parents were already invested, I was invested, you were invested, and I was like, either something changes or let's call off the wedding.
Yeah.
You know, I think, and that was, for me, that was the point where...
Yeah. And I remember you suggesting rather that since the traditional marriage is really the one that my parents have kind of like have a saying, that what if we did a court wedding? Right.
And then they can take their time to do traditional
marriage. And I was like, nope, that's not happening. Because once I do court wedding, I'm already married and my father hasn't given me out. He has not given me his blessings. And it's very important for me because I understood that, well, some people might disagree, but I believe that a father's blessing is very important and is very crucial.
It's not even just that. If we even take it to biblical times, there was nothing like white wedding. The true wedding, the process of getting married is when you saw how when Abraham wanted to find a wife for Isaac, he sent the servant to go and meet the family. And then the family had to give an approval. Then they now spoke to daughter, do you want to go? But even when he told her, she had to go back inside and meet her brothers. It was the brothers that now agreed and said, okay, you can go with him too. That was the approval that she needed to leave that house. And they sent her with some maidens. In fact, they even wanted her to stay safe for a while. And she was like, come, I gotta go. So, and that was I think, apart from Adam and Eve, I mean, those ones didn't have in-laws now. It was the first wedding that we saw, you know, in scripture. We could see that family giving you out is important. Even if it's not the father, his father is not alive or whatever, but he's the head of the home. But if it's not there, the family has to give you out.
Yes. You know, and I mean, I didn't have any biblical reference to it. I just always knew that it was important for my dad to give me out, especially because he's still alive.
The way they raised you guys too.
Yes, I think so.
You have a very cultural.
Yeah. So it was not even a question. Mine was, if my father doesn't agree in November, and I still knew he was going to agree some way anyhow, even if it was 2 months to the marriage, which is why we kept on doing making preparations, because we did that in faith, knowing that November will come and the marriage would happen. So
we're speaking with our event planner, getting prices, getting everything.
And one thing we started doing was we started praying, I think almost every day, and doing some confessions regarding the whole situation.
Yeah, because we have submitted this whole thing to our mentor.
Yeah, and I'm gonna get there. And when we realized that we're just always fighting, just quarreling, and nothing was changing. I remember going to talk to one of my mentors, and I was heartbroken. I was tired. I was frustrated. And it was hard for me because aside from the fact that my family on this end looked like nobody was really on my side, or nobody was really understanding where I was coming from, it was almost like no, and no is no. And on the other hand, this person I want to get married to feels like I don't love him enough to make a decision to get married to him, and we're just always fighting. So it was like I was in the middle by myself, all alone, you know, having to manage just these two sides, right? And I remember I was crying and I was angry and I was tired, frustrated. And I was speaking to my mentor, and he said, it's not a time to cry. It's for you to pray, you know. And it sounded quite absurd because I'm like, why am I praying for this? Exactly. Why am I praying for this thing? And he told me something. He said, the heart of a king is in the hand of God, and eternity is wherever he will it. And that was really what broke it for me. And I was like, you know what? If God has said this thing, obviously contention is going to come up. And it's just so bad that the contention seemed like it was coming from my family, right? But I knew that if God said so, then I best believe he said so. And so
I said the Israelites will leave Egypt, but it didn't come without contention.
Exactly. You know, so we started praying about this.
You know, funny, sorry, to even digress, not even before we get into the prayer, I remember that part of the reason why I wasn't just angry at your family. I was angry on your behalf because I felt like in a family of, I think you guys are 6.
That's my mom and my dad.
That's your mom and dad. Like, is it that there's not one person that can even support you? Let me even say that we have somebody inside that we can. It just feels like as if everybody was like, I was like, at that time, I was like, if I eventually get married, I'm just going to, everybody will just stay on this line and this side because you people do not support me. So if I eventually get married to her, everybody should just stay there. So I was angry in 2 places. I was angry because I was seeing what you were going through. Every time you'll be crying. Remember sometimes I would call you and tears from your. I'm like,
babe,
yes,
you never saw me cry.
There was sometimes
babe, you never because I was always trying to hide my.
There was one time that
reactions.
You cried. There was one time I remember when you were in your house, you cried. That was the only time you cried, and then you cleaned your eyes, and then I now asked you, so what's happening? You look like you were crying, then you now started tearing up. That was one that broke my heart. I wanted to just even fight. I was like, you know what? Let's gather everybody and let me address them. So that was the one that it pained me. But I didn't even have one person, just one. Because usually in every family, there's always somebody that is whether it's brother or sister. So I just remember that I was like, it was, it was a lot.
And I think that the whole process was actually a healing process for me in some way, because my mom and I have never really had such a we used to have such a wonderful relationship, but I think when I got into secondary school, it just started going down, and I remember she was the major person that was spearheading the movement, so that brought up a lot of old ones. And I remember one day I was praying and I was telling the Holy Spirit that this is not fair. Like, what is going on with me is not fair. Why is it that I'm always the one that has to go through one hurdle or one hoop or one whatever, And the Holy Spirit said to me, forgive. And he said, speak to your mom and forgive. And I remember after I had that conversation with my mom, I think that was when the thing broke. And then we had some kind of respite. I think that was it. And it might not make any sense when they say pray about the situation, but it is the Holy Spirit that knows how it's going to work out. And sometimes it can be something so off key with what is going on, because him telling me forgive her and go and talk to her, my mom is not the only deciding factor, right? And the relationship that I had with her was very different from what the matter on ground was. But he was telling me, go and rebuild this relationship. And I didn't even know that it was going to in any way affect their decision to them coming together to say, okay, we prayed about it. Pastors have told us is a go. We might not understand, or it might not. All our fears might not have been satisfied, but you know what? We're going to allow you do whatever it is you want to do. So I didn't understand how that was going to lead to this, but that was what led to it, because we prayed. We prayed together. I prayed individually. He also prayed individually. So you might be going through something like this. You're trying to get married. Your parents are like, no, 2 years, 3 years. Prayer is really the key, and wisdom too. I remember during that period, I wanted to do things by my own way. So I remember having a strategy of divide and conquer. So I'll call my mom, and then I would try to pally up with her, and then I'll not be talking bad about some things that my dad has done to her, so that I'll be on her good side. And then I'll call my dad and try to pally up with him, and then I'll be talking about some things my mom has done to him, just to make him upset. And then I'll now put it and saying, you know what? Anyway, but Daddy, I understand though. Just, let's just...
Quite devious.
I thought in my own wisdom that was what was going to help us with the situation. But it did not work, because after I've tried to separate them, when it's time for meeting, both of them are tighter than anything. And it didn't work out. And I remember praying and I was like, God, give me the wisdom to know how to go about this. And then he said, pray and forgive and meet her and speak to her. And that was really what broke it, So it was... Years later, I remember my mom coming to see us. And when she came to see us, she broke down and she said to me, I'm really sorry for everything that happened. I was doing everything from love. I remember them always saying, it's because we love you, we're doing this. And I could never understand. I'm like, if you love me, you cannot be fighting me. But it was what they understood. It was their own way of showing love, no matter how much I did not understand it. It was, they were trying to keep me safe. They were trying to make sure the fears and the experiences that they had before doesn't happen to me. And meanwhile, I was just like, if you love me, you allow me go, and it is that our parents are not wicked. Well, I like to talk from my own point of view. I don't know how other parents are, but I like to believe that no parent is wicked enough to not want their children's happiness. And so when your parents are acting out of the norm or what you understand, it's not because they are wicked. It's not because they don't want your happiness. It's just, this is the understanding they have. This is the mindset they have. And they're trying to do what they think is best for you in the best way possible for them.
I think for me, it's. I remember I was speaking to one of my close friends, and I was saying that, can you imagine? Her father is saying this and that, and I said, "See, Chief, let me tell you something." He said, if you have something that you value very high and very expensive, and somebody you want to give it to somebody. Do you understand? Are you not going to do a lot of background checks on the person?
Yeah.
Are you just going to give it out like that? Something that you have valued for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with our father. That he's not just going to give. That the same way you yourself, are you going to, even when you get married, you don't have a child yet, think about it. Are you just going to give your daughter to any guy after you have invested in the person? So I think it was at that point in time I started understanding where your dad and your mom were coming from. Because funny enough, when I eventually, because apart from the fact that I had to first pass through the hoops of speaking to your family, your dad was like the last leg. I was like, which one is last leg? I was like, give me phone, let me talk to you. He said, no, it's not yet
when
time.
We've concluded, I will speak to you.
First of all, where, is this mafia? Is this like, which one is the last leg? Like, what's all down for? Let me talk to you.
Respect or no?
I could not think about like if you. I like, first of all, he was not even in the country.
Yeah.
The different case, if he was in Nigeria, I could have gone to go and meet him, even just show up here and he will allow me inside. But because he was outside the country, you didn't want to give me number. Nobody wanted to give me number. I'm like, who is this mysterious
Mr. V?
Do you understand? So, but in retrospect, and I eventually realized that, you know, the way your parents grew up is different from the way you grew up. So the things that they hold in high regard is different from what you will hold in high regard. So a lot of times when we want to get married, we're expecting the way we think marriage should go should just happen for us. But your parents are from a different generation. The way they think about marriage. I can remember that conversation I was having with my mom. She was like, you should get married in the church. So is God not going to be in the garden? But in retrospect, I could see that based on that mindset, the building, the church, everything, there was this kind of importance, there's sacredness about getting married inside the church. And for me, in this new school generation, seeing that anywhere 2 or 3 are gathered.
Exactly. The Christ church is not the building.
Exactly.
The people.
So there was this pushback at that time, you know, but in retrospect, now I understand. At that time, I would tell you, because for like a year, even after the wedding, I was still
a bit hurt.
But sometimes when I think about it, I still feel a kind of way. Like, why did it have to get to this stage before I now finally, like, is after we've gotten married, I'm not getting accepted. Why wasn't I accepted before, you know, the wedding? But God has helped me heal my heart. Because I remember speaking to my friend, I was like, all this thing is happening now. My own stance is I want to marry this girl. But the moment she enters into my family, I just carry scissors and just cut everybody off. I will just block everybody's number. I don't want to pick nobody should even call me again because they've handed her daughter over to me, you know. And that was what I nursed for a while until I eventually spoke to my friend and I was like, you don't trust me, you don't want to start off here because you doing that is also going to hurt your wife, you know. So God had to help me. That's just the truth. But like you were saying, in retrospect, people are only going to react to certain things based on the lenses, the view.
And that doesn't make them bad.
Doesn't make them bad people. Doesn't make anybody right.
Yeah.
It's just based on the knowledge you have. You know, so I think from what you said, one thing that we learned about it was prayer. Yeah. We prayed. But number 2, understanding where people are coming from. Yeah, very key. Because one thing about marriage that you will learn is that if you don't, in fact, I think anyone else get married should go and take a course on negotiation. Negotiation and emotional intelligence. Because people skills. There are some people that you will come out of nowhere that you've never seen in your life. And like, this person is from the devil. This person is a mad person. You can't understand. But that person now becomes influential. And you now have to bring yourself low. To get what? Because that's basically negotiation. You learn negotiation skills, you learn people skills, you learn patience. Patience. You learn patience. I mean, I'm impatient by nature. You were impatient. I was impatient by nature, but you know, God is helping me to become more patient. So anybody out there that is going through this type of situation, first of all, if you are growing up in Nigeria or you have Nigerian parents from the previous generation, just understand first of all that there's a culture in which they grew up in. So if you come from a different tribe, somebody else, or even a different sect in Christian faith, and you're facing resistance, don't see it as they hate you, they don't want your happiness, they don't, because if you can, the last person to see what is inside the picture frame is the person inside the picture frame. And the funny thing is that if you come and tell your parents that want to get married and they just say, okay, no problem, they don't ask you any questions, they're not interested in it, then your parents are bad. Then they don't even love you. Exactly, they don't love you. Just say, no problem, I trust you, go. Yeah. You get. So, not that we are saying that is a good thing, because even our parents have a lot to learn from this. But the one that you can control is what you learn.
Yeah.
Do you understand? We're not going to force them out. You have to learn how to allow your children to make their own decisions and all that. But step out of the picture frame. Try and, for a moment, put yourself inside their shoes and see how they see life.
Yeah.
That would also even help you how to relate, with them better. Because I know of some people that it took them 2 years before they got married. But they eventually got married. I know you might not want to wait 2 years.
Wait 2 years, yes.
But if your parents, for example, if you are from the guy wanting to marry the woman, the father's blessing is important.
Yes.
The family, that is the real. You don't want to start a marriage off on the bad end with your in-laws, because they are your in-laws for life. It's not, there's nothing like in-law for this quarter and another in-law for next quarter. They are your family for life, and you don't want to start off, on the bad foot.
Yeah. So. And to add to that, so is when you mentioned patience, is very, very key, because I remember how I was so hot-headed whenever every meeting will come to no agreement, and then I'll shout, I'll be angry, I'll stop talking to everybody. And I remember the Holy Spirit telling me, this is not how to go about it. You want these people's approval, you have to be patient, and you have to be able to talk to them. And I remember how they would tell me, okay, you know what, we're meant to make a decision this week, but you know what, we will reconvene next 2 weeks, and it will annoy me. And I'll say, okay, Daddy, no problem, that's fine. I trust your decision, I trust what you're doing. And I'll call my mom and I'll talk to her nicely, and then I'll just, not even bring up the marriage situation, just relate with her. And I realized that actually in some way helps me, because if I'm always fighting them, it's like they are going to fight back.
Want to okay, so
exactly. You think that you know better than us. We're going to show you that we're your parents. So I had to mellow and be humble.
I remember the time when, I think, was it so close to the marriage, when they were like, you know what, we think we should move the wedding to March the next year. And I said, tell them, if the wedding does not hold this November, it's not holding at all. Like March is not even gonna happen. And the
thing that really helped us was the fact that our parents know that we are people who are mature spiritually in some extent. So when we came and said, we have heard from God, and God
this
said
is November,
this is it, they couldn't really fight it. So whenever it came
we
up,
had a united front on both sides. Because I think that was the time when my mom was like, well, even if you move it to March next year. But my mom always likes to use soft. She's like a soft. She wants to influence you. She uses a very soft
approach.
Even if you do it next year, it's not a bad one. Like, God has said November.
Exactly. Nobody fights with God said.
Exactly. Nobody fights with God. Even if you're lying, they will not. Once you say God said, they will just free you. I'm not saying you use it to go and manipulate your parents, because God says no, they lie. So anyway, I think the united fronts also helped us a lot. We were united on all fronts. They couldn't pull one person aside and try and manipulate that person. So I mean, this is not all the story, but we can't give all the
gist to merge it in this. But what the key takeout is: number one, you have to be prayerful. Number two, you have to be wise. Number three, you have to seek counsel. One thing that really did help us was that there were people that were speaking to us that were wise enough, and they were and unbiased as well. Yes. When we say seek counsel, don't go and meet your sister or your brother or your friend.
Imagine if I had spoken to a friend. And funny enough, my friends are actually not even Yoruba self. I don't have that many Yoruba friends. So my dad has spoken to somebody who was also like, the Igbos, don't marry them all. That's how they are.
Actually, you had one friend that told you that, as you're going to marry this girl, just know you're going to spend plenty money.
Yes, one person that told me plenty money that the bride price that you will see, Igbo people. Hey, God.
He did say something.
I paid quite an arm and an interest.
I beg. But you need to seek good counsel. Counsel with people that you can trust their wisdom and their judgment. Yeah. What else?
So we said wisdom,
prayerful, counsel,
and then there should be unity. Because if you are not united on all fronts, people can easily just push you one side, feed you with this particular type of information, and then eventually causes the end of the relationship. So if both of you have decided that you want to get married, know that a house divided against itself cannot stand. So you have to be united on all fronts. Because even when we're planning the wedding, there are some times where your mom will want something to happen in the wedding, you will say no. She will now send your dad to talk to me, and your dad will now use, my son. How about you think? I was like, sir.
Yeah, your mom, so especially that whole thing.
Exactly.
So they came to speak to
I
me.
said, me and my wife have agreed that this is what it is, or that I'm sorry, but I will still talk and I will let you know. You get, so we have to be diplomatic about it. But the fact that they could see that if they want to enter through here, we short gate. They want to enter through here, we short gate. So eventually that unity actually help, because things will come up that will try and push you guys apart, but try and stay united also.
Yeah. So
yeah.
With these long few words of ours, we do hope that you've learned something.
You've learned from our story. And I mean, if you are going through it, know that, I mean, if God has said it will happen, this temptation is not unique to you alone. To you. In fact, if we didn't overcome it, we wouldn't even be doing this. Exactly. And she'll probably be doing Lulu and give me a neighbor name. Lulu and Chineke. I
would never have married a neighbor guy.
Okay, Lulu and Shio. I'll probably be doing Nino and Kemi.
I also won't be doing any Luna and anything. It's you that will be doing Nino and Shegzi. Anyway, as always, like, comment, share.
Let us know what you think. If you are going through it, or you have some tips that you can also share with others in the comment section that you've learned from your own experience. Please share.
Until we come again.
I'm Nino.
And I'm Lulu.
And this is Thriving Our Love and Relationships.